Good afternoon everyone. Welcome to NCERT live sessions of Alchemy IAS. So this initiative is very important because NCERT forms the foundation and the basics of the concepts that are asked in UPSC. So what is our purpose? First, we have to cover the NCERT from class 6 to class 12th standard, and then we have to cover it in such a way that it will be meeting our topics, right? All the demands of the UPSC. So we have to look at the demands and the nature of question that UPSC is asking, and based on that we will be looking at all the important points or the topics and the questions that are being asked from certain topics. So let's start. Today is our first day for Class 6 NCERT. The title is Our Past 1, and today we will be covering chapter 1 of history. So what is the name of the chapter? So this is National Anthem, Jana Gana Mana, all the important informations, and these are the chapters. There are 12 chapters that we will be dealing, and every day there will be a session of NCERT. Different subjects will be dealt. Then we will have, some days we will have classes for polity, some days we will have classes for economy, geography and history, and also science. So we will today cover chapter 1. What is the name of the chapter? So it is what, where, how and when. Basically the starting of the study of history. What is history? What is past? What is past? Where? From where did it start? Right? How means how did it start? Somewhere, someplace, something might have been happened, right? And that led to the history, the past. And when? What is the time period? How do we know about the past? So all the things are dealt in. That what people used to it, how they used to it, what were the kind of activities that they used to do. So these kind of things. Finding out what happened. So there are questions, right? Whenever we see people talking that this happened to me yesterday, so we know on which day she is telling about, right? About which day she is talking about. So now first important topic is what can we know about the past, right? What can we know means what all things are there in the past and what can we know. There are several things we find out. See, what is past, what is history? So the people who used to live thousands of years ago, what did they do, what did they eat, right? Kind of clothes that they wear, right? They wore, and then houses, what kind of houses were there in which they were living. We can find out that the lives of hunters, herders, farmers, rulers, priests, these different kind of people existed, different kind of class existed. So social stratification was there, social divisions we find in the past also. So all the online students, please send a hi. All the students who are joining the live session, you can type hi or yes, so that I know that who all are active or just watching the video. Okay, you can also share the video with your friends. Hi Ashwan, okay, you can share the video, share this live to your friends or whoever you know who can get the benefit. So see, there were different classes of people, different kinds of people, different activities were there, right? So scientists, musicians, we also find out about the games. So entertainment, people were also taking care of the entertainment, right? Children played games, right? The stories, they heard, the plays they saw, right? Where did people live? The most important question, right? Question about their living pattern, question about their eating pattern. So how do we know about that? So this topic tells us about that. Okay, first it tells us about the Narmada river area. First we'll look at the map of India. This is the map that has been given, and from this map only and the information that has been provided related to this map is very crucial, because match the following kind of question which UPSC asks. can come from this map and the question, the information that has been given. So there are different locations like Suleiman range, Kirthar range is there, right? On these ranges, what happened, right? What did people do? There is this Vindhya range, right? And then there is Ganga river. So what happened near the banks of Ganga river for the first time, right? So all these information have been given. What happened in the Garo hills? So this is the physical map of India. So we will be looking at all the important details, the facts that can be useful for our history subject. Okay, Narmada. People, see, what it is telling is people used to live along the banks of Narmada river for several hundred years, and very important fact, some of the earliest people who lived here were skilled gatherers. So what it is telling about Narmada river? That the Narmada river people were skilled gatherers. So this is one of the most information, right? Most important information that can be asked in UPSC directly. UPSC asks questions directly. Take the statement from NCERT directly. Even in mains you can find questions which are the topics which are discussed in NCERTs. So skilled workers, right? So people, skilled gatherers, they were skilled gatherers, right? People who are skilled gatherers. So this is telling us that also that they were people who gathered their food. They knew about the vast wealth of plants. They were natives, right, in the surrounding forest. Now gatherers, they were hunters and they were gatherers. So they were collecting what? Roots, fruits and other forest produce for their food. They also hunted animals. So two kind of activities they were doing, right? Okay, two kinds of activities they were doing. They were hunting also and they were doing gathering also. So we know now that hunters and gatherers were there on the banks of Narmada river. So this is clear, right? Okay, now let's move forward to Suleiman and Kirthar range. Okay, Suleiman and Kirthar hills. We have already seen that Suleiman is here, right, and Kirthar is here, northwest province. Yes or no? Okay, so now some of the areas, see the important information that has been given, and UPSC takes these, sometimes what happens, some statement based or fact based question comes and we think that from where they have taken this statement or a fact, right? So this is the thing, this is the information. See, where women and men first time they began to grow crops such as wheat and barley. Very clearly it has mentioned that for the first time women and men, some women and men, they started growing what? Wheat and barley. So two information has been given. First wheat and barley, they were producing here, right? Wheat and barley, and for the first time. So second information has been given, right? So they were consuming wheat and barley 8,000 years ago. So they have made this thing also very clear and they are located here. Other things that people were doing what? People also began rearing animals, rearing of animals, right? So they also started rearing animals like sheep, goat, cattle, and they lived in villages. Very important information, right? So animal names have also been given and villages. Same statement can be put in UPSC examination and can be asked whether these statements are correct or not. Yes? Okay. Now we are going towards the Garo hills. Okay. So these were some of the areas, the Garo hills, where people used to do what? Okay. So agriculture. Clearly it is mentioning that Garo hills, people used to do agriculture. Yes? Okay. Places where rice was first grown are to the north of Vindhyas. So four important information has been given that what happened in Kirthar and Suleiman range, wheat and barley, rearing of animal. Narmada, what happened? Hunting and gathering society. Now, Garo hills, agriculture developed, and rice. Rice was first grown to the north of Vindhyas. So these are the important history information or the topics or the statement related to history which are very, very important. Now moving towards river Indus and its tributaries, right? So what happened near Indus and its tributaries? So first modern cities, what it is telling? About 4700 years ago, some of the earliest cities, right? It is talking about the Harappan civilization, which was the first civilization, and the urban civilization. So they are cities, flourished on the banks of these rivers. About 2500 years ago, city develops on the bank of the Ganga and its tributaries also. So now it is talking about the second urbanization. First urbanization was witnessed on the banks of Indus and its tributaries, which is Harappan civilization, and second urbanization was witnessed on the banks of Ganga river, right? Clear information has been given. Okay, locate the Ganga and its tributary. Son, important, related to the ancient India. They are very important. What is the importance? Okay. Ancient India, the area along these rivers to the south of Ganga, they were called as Magad. Magad was the first greatest empire of ancient India. It was the first empire, so this makes Magad very, very important, and it was to the south of Ganga. So all important information we are looking at, right? And it is in the state of Bihar. Its rulers. Now this also tells us about the rulers of Magad. How were they? So its rulers were very powerful, right? Powerful and set up a large kingdom, and because of the powerful leadership provided by the rulers of the Magad empire, they were expanding so much, and this was because of this reason, the powerful leaders, it was the greatest empire, the first empire of India. Kingdoms were set up in different parts of the country as well. Okay, next. So now it is telling us about the movement of people. Throughout, people traveled from one part of the subcontinent to the other. Now let's go back to the map and see the map, physical map of India. Why? See, this is the subcontinent, right? The map which is including what? Bangladesh also, right? And Pakistan also, right? Sri Lanka. So India is called as a subcontinent, right? Now, okay. Okay, names of the land, and then yes, online students, who all are there? Okay, now Ganga and its tributary we have already done. So throughout the history of India, we see that there was movement of people, right? Subcontinent from one area to other area, and for what? So the hills, high mountains, Himalayas, desert, river, seas, it made their journey dangerous and difficult because there was no technology, no transport system like buses, railways, air connectivity was not there. So it was a dangerous task, but still people moved in search of food, in search of shelter, better opportunities, right? But it was never impossible, and this is why we see the cultural diversity, the interlinkages of the diversity, Buddhism traveling to different countries, right? So like that. Men and women, why are they moving? This is also telling us that men and women, they were moving in search of livelihood and also to escape from natural disasters. This was one of the primest reason whenever people felt threatened. So they were moving from one place to other place, natural disasters or droughts or even disease, right? Sometimes men marched in armies, conquering other lands. Now it is talking about the kingdoms, the empires, starting of the political formation, right? Besides, merchants played a very important role in the growth of economy. So they traveled with caravans or ships carrying valuable goods from place to place. Also, religious teachers, all the monks, nuns, Buddhism, Jainism, right? All the gurus, the Bhakti movement. So these teachers also walked from village to village, town to town, and stopping to offer instruction and advice on the way. So, it is telling us about that also. Okay. Now, the next question that arises is, why do people travel nowadays? So, same kind of thing, in search of better opportunity, right, better life. Okay. Hills, mountains, sea form the natural frontier of the subcontinent, right. So, subcontinent, India is called a subcontinent. Hills, mountains and seas, they form the natural frontiers. While it was difficult to cross the frontiers, they did scale the mountain and cross the sea, but people were doing that, right. Nothing could stop them from traveling, from moving. People from across the frontiers also came into the subcontinent and settled here. Different tribes we see that settled in ancient India also, medieval times also, right. Now, the movement, what is the effect of the movement of people or the interaction of the people, right. So, it led to enrichment of the culture, right. There is unity in diversity in India, diversity we can find, right. So, enhancement in the cultural tradition, people, when people move, they carry their ideas also, they carry their culture also, right. So, all the things were being carried out by them to new places and they were integrating it with their knowledge, right. So, shared new ways of carving stone, composing music, even cooking food. So, this is what? Culture is what? Culture is a way of life only, and these form the culture part, right. Names of the land, very important. Now, how India gets its name? India, that is Bharat. So, Bharat, right. Bharat is the name of our country, yes or no? Where does this name come from? Where does the name India come from? So, looking at the past, now we will get to know. Two of the words that we often use are India and Bharat, right. Word India, sorry. Okay. So, the word India came from Indus, right, comes from Indus, which is also called Sindhu in Sanskrit. Okay. Now, Iran and Greece, these were the people, there were interactions with different civilizations also. Mesopotamia was there, Iranian civilization was there, right. So, we had interaction with these people also. Now, when they came through the northwest, Iranian and Greece people, when they came through the northwest, they started calling these people Hindus or Indos, right. What is the name that they are calling? Hindus or Indos. The land to the east of the river was called India, right. So, the land to the east of the river was called India. Okay. So, this part was called India, east to the river, it was called India. Now, Bharat, where does Bharat word comes from? So, it is mentioned in Rig Veda, it is written that it is mentioned in the Rig Veda, the earliest composition in Sanskrit. So, two most important information related to Bharat is Rig Veda mentions Bharat, second Rig Veda is written in Sanskrit language. So, this is how you use the information that is provided in NCERT, right. Later it was used for the country. So, Bharata is what? Bharat is a tribe which was used in Rig Veda. Finding about the past. How do we find about the past, right? From what sources? Okay. So, manuscript. There are several ways of finding out about the past. One is to search for and read books that were written long ago. So, search for the books or read the books that were written long ago. One book, one form of information is provided by manuscripts. What are manuscripts? Simple question, right? Because they were written by hand, right? Manuscripts, first information is they were written by hand and these were usually written on palm leaf. So, hand written, okay, and then object is what? Palm leaf. So, these are the two important information related to manuscripts which can be asked, right? Statement based question can be made, and then specially prepared bark of a tree, palm leaf, that is, or other source was what? On which object? material it was written? The specially prepared bark of a tree known as birch. So, palm leaves or birch, these were the two materials on which the manuscripts were written by hand. Many manuscripts were eaten away by insects, right, because they are perishable, right. So, they got damaged and they could not be preserved, they were destroyed. So, this is an example of manuscript, right. Okay. Now, see, the next important information related to manuscript is what? These books dealt with all kinds of subject, religious belief and practices, the lives of king, medicine and science. So, one simple question that could be made about the manuscript is that what was the purpose or what were the subjects that were dealt in manuscripts, right? What were the topics that were discussed in manuscripts, right? Besides, there were epic poems and plays also, right? Many of these, the language, most important. In what languages it was written? Sanskrit, Prakrit, Tamil. These were the three languages, Sanskrit, Prakrit and Tamil, right? Simple and straightforward information. Now, we can also study inscription. First source is manuscripts, from where we can read about the past, right, which have been preserved, but they are not in a good way, right, good form, okay. Second thing, second most important source of history is inscription. What are inscription? So, the study of inscription is called as epigraphy, right. Inscription are written on hard surface. Very important information, manuscripts are not written on hard surfaces, they are perishable. Inscriptions are non-perishable items, right, such as stone or metal. So, there are big inscriptions that we see. There are stone inscription, there are pillar inscription, right. Sometimes king got their orders inscribed, right. So, Ashokan inscription, if we talk about Ashokan inscription, they were like the modern constitution. All the responsibilities, duties of a king, of officer, of the citizen, they were written on that, right. Okay. So, see, there are other kind of inscription as well as where men and women recorded what they did. There were inscription related to the order of the king. Local people, men and women, they also inscribed. They also used to write about what they did. Now, next is, what is the advantage, right? What is the advantage of writing on a hard surface? They are non-perishable, they can be preserved in a more effective manner. So, there were many other things that were made and used in the past, right. Those who study objects are called the archaeologists. So, those who study these objects, they are called archaeologists. They study, what they study? Remains of building, right, made of stone and brick, painting and sculpture. So, these are all the sources of reading about history, right, and the study, the people who study these things, they are called archaeologists. They also explore and excavate. So, method is what? Exploration and excavation, right. Excavation is what? Digging under the surface of the earth and finding the objects related to some civilization. Even now, excavation process is going on, right. Hello everyone. Okay. So, they used to find, they are doing this excavation, exploration because of what? To find about the tools, weapon, pots, pens, ornaments and coins. All the online students, how are you all? Fine? Okay. So, some of these objects, they were made of stone, other of bone. So, whatever we are finding in the excavation process, exploration, so they are what? They are baked clay, metal, all the things that were used by the people who used to live at that time. Objects that were made of hard, imperishable substances, they used to survive. They survived for a long time. So, this is also a pot, right? This is what? The other terracotta image. Archaeologists, now they are finding for objects, right, related to the people who used to live in the history. They also look for bones. Why? Because what kind of animals they used to domesticate. So, we will get the information about that also, right. Bones of animals, birds, fish, right. And then to find out what people ate, right? Plant remains survive far more rarely. If seeds of grain or pieces of wood have been burnt, they survive in a charred form. So it is based on the nature of the remain, right? What kind of an item it was whether it was perishable. So if it is perishable, it will survive for a less duration of time. If it is non-perishable, it will survive for a more longer duration, right? Okay, historians. Okay, now historian, that is scholar who study the past, often use the word source. So these objects, all these books, all the archaeological remains, they are referred to as the sources of history. Sources of history, right? And they refer to the information. The word source to refer to the information found from manuscript, inscription and archaeology. And that is how they form history. History is what? The information about the past events, but not every event, but only those events from where we have evidences. The evidences have been found and the information has been corroborated, right? Okay. Once sources are found, what is the what is the next activity? So they will be learning about the past, okay? And it becomes an adventure when we have the required amount of evidences related to some kind of history that has been mentioned in the manuscript or the book. Then we can corroborate that information and we have the evidences. So our scientific investigation has been done, research has been done, right? So historians and archaeologists, so we can call them detectives also, because they are working like detectives, right? They are reading about something and then they are finding for the sources of history, right? And then writing about it. So they are called as detectives also. Now the next topic is one past or many. So do we have only one kind of history or do we have diversity? So India has a diversity. So diversity, this diversity we can find in history also. So we have many past related to people, culture, right? Kings, queens. So everyone has their own past, right? And then past was different to different groups of people. There is this past for different tribes also, nomadic tribes also who came to India and settled here. There is this past for Mughal people also who came to India and then settled, normal people also, right? Mahajanpadas also. Okay, so different. See, the history of a common man or herder or a farmer or a tribe will be very much different from the history of a king, queen, right? Merchants, and different from those of craft person and so on. So why? Because there were different kind of tradition, custom, sources, access to resources, right? So different kind of activities, different kind of tradition and practices. Today, most people living in Andaman Island get their own food by fishing, hunting and collecting forest produce. What is this kind of activity? So this is hunting and gathering only, right? And forest produce are also there. So they gather, they collect forest produce. This means that they are still continuing with this kind of practice, right? Hunting and gathering, yes or no? Tell me. Okay, now differences have existed in the past as well, differences and diversity. So India has this long history of diversity since ages, right? Besides, there is another kind of difference also. So we know many things about kings and battles they fought because they were able to record their history, right? Many kings, they recorded about the battles, about their victories, all the annexations that they did, right? Generally, ordinary people, hunter, fishing folk, gatherer, farmer or herder, they did not keep records. So only those people who were able to record their history, we know about them in a very great manner. But other histories we do not know because they were not giving attention to recording history. Now, what do dates mean? Okay, when we say BCE and when we say CE, what is the meaning? So BCE refers to before Common Era, right? And it was earlier known as BC, right? Before Christ. Now this general BCE is used, general term BCE is used, and now CE, common era, this is used for in place of AD, right. So this is used in place of AD. So these years are counted from the date generally assigned to the birth of Jesus Christ, right. So there is a 0 which relates to the birth of Jesus Christ, and before Christ, before the birth of Christ, we refer those periods as BCE, and after the birth of Christ, we refer to these years as CE, common era, right. So 2000 means 2000 years after the birth of Christ, right. So they will be called as 2000 CE. What is the current year? It is 2024, right, 2024. Okay. So all dates, see, this is a very important information, that all dates before the birth of Christ are counted backwards. So before the birth of Christ, when we count the dates, they are counted backwards, and they have usually the letters B, C, E, right. So this is how we date some period, right. See this piece of information, BC, we have seen it stands for before Christ, but we use what? BCE, right. Now we use BCE, and CE is what? Is used instead of AD, and BCE is used instead of BC, right. So this is the change now, and sometimes letter BP meaning before present are also used. So this was our chapter 1 related to history, right. Okay. So now one more information is given in the box. So there is this inscription, right. We have seen that inscriptions are inscribed on hard surfaces. Many of these were inscribed several hundred years ago, right. All inscription contain what? Both script and language, right. Language is what? It is the spoken part, right, and script is what? It is written part. So languages which were used as well as scripts, they have changed over time, they have evolved, right. And then, so how do scholars understand what was inscribed? So this is done by decipherment, right. The script is deciphered, the script is deciphered by the scholars, and this is how we get to know about the different scripts and the information given in those script. One of the most famous stories of decipherment comes from Egypt, right, a country in North Africa where there were kings and queens 5000 years ago. So this is also an example of decipherment of the script, right. Another example we have is the first inscription that was deciphered in India was of Ashoka, right. Ashokan inscription. It was first time deciphered by James Prinsep, and you have to write about the year. Tell me the year in which it was deciphered for the first time by James Prinsep. Comment down in the section below. Okay. So this was our chapter 1. See the kind of question that are asked. Narmada Valley, so you have to match it, right. You can do this small homework also, that what we find in Narmada Valley. So match the following: Raro Hills, Indus Tributary, Ganga Valley, right. List one major difference between manuscripts and inscription. So this is how you prepare NCERT chapters, and we will be covering chapter 2 in our next live session. So take care and all the best for your UPSC journey. Thank you.